Hi, my name is Rin Longmaid. I'm a restaurant broker and consultant at Santa Rosa Business and Commercial in Santa Rosa, California, Sonoma County. And I am the founder and host of this series, Deep Dish Live, where we explore the business of restaurants for restaurateurs, restaurant buyers and sellers, and the restaurant curious. Today, I'm out here in Point Reyes Station in Marin County. Gorgeous spring day at the Old Western Saloon, which is actually listed for sale, both the bar and the real property. And it's being listed for sale by the same owner. So today's episode, coincidentally, is about what happens when the restaurant seller also owns the real property. Now, if you guys have been listening to my series, I sell restaurants, bars, cafes, anything that requires a food permit and or an ABC license. The reason I do that is because I come from this industry and it's the industry I love, and it's not an easy thing to do. That's not why I do it, but that's why you want to work with me or somebody like me. Anybody in my office, anyway, I won't go into that. So this business is for sale. The seller is only going to entertain offers from buyers that are interested in buying the business and the real property. And why, you might ask, are those two separate deals? The reason why is the sale of the business, a sale of any business is personal property and it goes through one escrow. The sale of the real property is a real property sale and it goes through a different escrow. Also, when it comes to lending, the way it's funded, when it's SBA lending in particular, there's an SBA 7A loan, which is for the business. And then there's an SBA 504 loan that's for the real property. So those are also funded. So they're funded separately and they go through an escrow separately. So when I'm talking about, so there's different ways the seller of a restaurant, I'm going to use restaurant as the default, works with a buyer. So let's say the seller of the restaurant owns the real property. The seller may be not interested in selling the real property and is going to issue a lease to the buyer of the business. Or the seller of the business might own the real property. And in this case, is only going to entertain offers for a buyer buying the business that's also going to buy the real property. And then more often than not, when the business owner owns the real property, they're going to entertain different offers from buyers who want to buy both, offers who only want to buy the business. But we usually find that out up front. The cool thing about the seller of the business owning the real property is it makes the sale so much easier because the buyer doesn't have to be vetted by the landlord, quote unquote, because the landlord's part of the sale already knows who the buyer is. The other big, huge, ginormous benefit is when the buyer goes through the health department's site review inspection. And I'm not going to talk about that here. I talk about it in many different episodes and I focus on it specifically in certain episodes. But in the North Bay, Marin, Napa, and Sonoma counties in particular, getting through the change of ownership inspection with the health department is a thing. And I'm going to give you an example. So I just sold a business in downtown Santa Rosa, and the seller of the business also owned the real property, but he was only selling the business. So he offered a lease. When the buyer went through the change of ownership inspection, there was a lot required, a mop sink. And when that mop sink was required, it put the water heater out of compliance. So then there was also a new water heater that needed to be installed. So the landlord, because the landlord owns the real property, offered to contribute to the things that were required for the buyer by purchasing and installing the water heater. That's a really big deal. Most landlords are de-incentivized to help with that because these are trade fixtures. Even though some of these assets become fixed assets in terms of real estate, they're trade fixtures. And what I mean by, so this particular restaurant that sold on 4th Street, It could operate as a restaurant. It has all that expensive infrastructure, but it could also operate as a plant store, as a cannabis store. Actually, not that one because it's not zoned properly, but you get my drift. They're still trade fixtures. So most landlords, if they're just handling the lease and they have nothing to do with the business sale, they're less inclined to help in what might be required by the health department. Although when big things happen, regardless of who owns what and who's selling what, I typically bring the landlord into those discussions because it's better to ask to see if the landlord will help with those. And more often than not, they help some way, maybe with rent abatement, maybe just straight up like that the example I gave you where they'll pay for one expensive item on the health department site review inspection requirement. So in the case of the Old Western Saloon, this bar and building has been in this family since the 1970s. This has a very storied history, and the owner passed away last year in 2022, and the owner's daughter needs to sell it. She has a different career and a different life. She put it on the market last year, and it was too emotional for her. Yeah, it's important for her who the next buyer is, but the next buyer is going to buy the bar and the building. And in this case, the building has rental property up above. I think it's like 85% leased out. But, so when you see this advertised, the bar is advertised for $189. That includes the liquor license, and it includes, this is super important, the use permit for live music. This bar features, has a really robust, live entertainment program. And then the real property is listed for 2.1. The seller is only going to entertain offers from the buyer that's going to buy both. And, so that's pretty much it for the Deep Dish Live episode, where I'm talking about landlord ownership of both the business and the real property. If you have any questions, or maybe I didn't cover it thoroughly enough, feel free to reach out to me. Texting is always best. If you leave me a voicemail, you probably won't hear back from me. You can DM me on Facebook. This series is also posted to YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, Ren Long Made Deep Dish Live. If you want to support me, the best way to do that is to like and subscribe on YouTube. Ed, I have one episode on my Deep Dish Live series about the 47s and the 48s, 1.5 thousand views. Because you'll see most of them are like 100 views. But I kid you not, I get so much business from these because I know what it's like to be out there in the industry wanting to buy or sell a restaurant, because I purchased the assets of my restaurant when I opened my restaurant. Then I got up and going through the grace of a lot of people and a lot of luck, a successful restaurant that I then turned around and sold. So I know what it's like to be on the other side. Had I known this information, had I had access to a YouTube channel like this that goes into the finer details of buying and selling restaurants, it would have benefited me. So I do it as a labor of love, quite frankly. Okay, so if you're just tuning in, this is Deep Dish Live. I'm Ren Longmaid. I'm a restaurant broker and consultant at Santa Rosa Business and Commercial in Sonoma County. I'm the founder and host of this series where we focus on all the details of selling a restaurant. Every episode, we give away a gift card. And the last time we streamed, Ed and I were at Carmen's Bistro Bar in downtown Santa Rosa. Carmen's is not for sale. The reason we were there is because they have a Type 75 liquor license, a brewing license. You can look at my previous episode. We're on episode 24, so that would have been episode 23 if you want to know more about the Type 75 license. But the winner of this $100 gift card is Neva Freeman. And you guys might actually recognize Neva's name because she is an interior designer and she specializes in restaurant interiors. She actually just did the interior of Sonoma Family Meal, which is gorgeous. So I'm putting a plug in for Neva. Neva, I'll reach out to you directly and get this gift card to you. Congratulations. I think that's it for today. I can't wait to see you for my next episode. I don't know when and where, but we'll see you then.